Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, host and head bookologist here at the Get Literate podcast. I'm a book-loving, notebook-hoarding reader and writer on a mission to change lives one book and one notebook at a time. On this podcast, we explore the power of books and reading and notebooks and writing to make life better and to feel better too. You'll find episodes exploring the reading and writing life and how it can make our actual lives better. You'll get book recommendations and notebook invitations around particular themes, and you'll meet authors and special guests who'll help us take inspired action in our own daily practices. So, grab a notebook and your TBR list, and let's get literate. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Get Literate podcast. I'm Stephanie Affinito, your podcast host, here with another episode on how reading and writing can make life better. This episode today will likely go down in Get Literate history as one of my all-time favorite topics to talk about. What are we talking about? Picture books. Now, before you say, wait a minute, this isn't Stephanie's Kidlit Love podcast where she talks to children's literature authors. This is Get Literate. You're right. Today, I am talking about the power of picture books to be adult coaching tools. Alternative forms of therapy wrapped into this beautiful portable package that you didn't know you needed to either get out of a rut, set a goal, meet a goal, or just have a little bit of transformation. Now, my love of picture books goes back deep. I can remember reading books that I loved as a child, and I even bring picture books into my work today. Now, of course, I have my Kidlit Love podcast, and there's lots of picture books there. But even in my role as a teacher of teachers, as a literacy coach, I was constantly bringing picture books into my work. I thought that picture books were the best way to spark conversations, to bring up difficult topics, to inspire, and just to form a connection and a community with the people who were reading and listening. In fact, I loved them so much that I created a course around that entire idea called Leading with Literacy. And it taught others how to start meetings and coaching conversations and learning experiences with picture books to break the ice, start conversation, and get people connected and talking about the content at hand. Now, since then, that product has evolved. It's not just leading educators with literacy, but it's leading ourselves. It's looking at picture books as these life coaching tools that you really don't need to read in therapy, but just need to read with yourself with a little bit of an honest reflection and, of course, maybe a notebook or two. So that's what I want to talk about today, why children's picture books could actually be the best adult life coaching and adult transformation tools that we have. So first, why would adults want to read children's literature? Right? We're adults. Shouldn't we be reading only adult books and the bestsellers and those literary books that I should read? Well, sure, you can, but you are never too old to outgrow the children's literature world. So here are a couple of reasons, 5, in fact, of why I think adults should be reading children's literature. And I think there's more, but these are the 5 that seem to resonate the most with everyone. Number 1, reading children's literature can help us get out of a reading rut. These books are usually shorter than our typical adult reads, so they can be read quickly. Not only can that make us feel good about putting another book in our reading log or checking it off on Goodreads, but these short books give us the perfect opportunity to try a new author, a new genre, a new format without a big time commitment and without infringing on our so-called adult reading life. So this is where you might try a graphic novel or dip your toes into historical fiction or verse because it's a shorter, usually much more engaging and appealing. I shouldn't say much more engaging and appealing, but since it's geared towards a younger audience and attention span, it gets right to it. And it's usually a very enjoyable, full circle kind of read. Now, the second reason I think we should all still read children's literature is that it fosters a childlike mindset. Adulting is hard, and enjoying the process of adulting can be even harder. Books offer us an escape from our lives. It gives us a few minutes away from our own personal chaos and just offers an invitation to lighten the load. Children's books does all that and more, reminds us what it was like to be a child when we wondered about things, when we had childlike curiosity, when we had the whole world in front of us and there was no jaded thinking whatsoever. Picture books remind us of that childlike attitude inside. Apple and Magnolia by Lauren Gell, The Other Half of Happy by Rebecca Balcarcel. Oh my gosh, these books just offer us the power of hope and remind us that it's okay to be who we are on the inside, which often involves that childlike self that maybe we're stuffing down. Number three, I think children's literature gives us a new perspective. By the very nature of the genre, these books give us a childlike perspective of whatever age book you are choosing to read into some adult situations, right? Things that are incredibly useful, a perspective that's incredibly useful to us, but easily forgotten because we are not kids anymore. So when you read something that explores the lives and the inner thinking of young protagonists, it can give you, as the adult reader, insight, new insight into your own thoughts, your own actions, and maybe even heal some of that inner child that still lives within you. Now, another reason I think we should use children's literature is because I think it boosts our adulting skills and especially boosts our parenting skills. So, yes, absolutely, books are meant to be enjoyed, but most books provide readers with some sort of message, some sort of lesson, or at least just something to reflect on as they read or as they finish reading books. Now, these lessons can be for our adult selves, of course, but when we read children's literature, we are getting a firsthand glimpse into the mind of a 5-year-old, of a 10-year-old, of a 13-year-old, things that we cannot do in real life. And getting that perspective can help us act differently in our own lives, in our interactions with anyone, but especially the young people around us. And now, finally, one of my favorite reasons to keep reading children's literature is so that we can connect the next generations with books. I feel like one of our greatest responsibilities as readers is to pass a joyful reading life on to the next generation. We know that readers learn, they explore, they enjoy. All of these things come from reading stories, and quite possibly they might decide to write their own too. So, reading children's literature helps us have these conversations and press these different books into young people's hands so that we can keep this bookish love going. So, I hope I've convinced you right off the bat 5 reasons why every adult reader should be reading children's literature. But why picture books? Why am I here with 10-ish picture books to share with you? Well, picture books are quick. You can read a picture book in likely 5 minutes or less as an adult. You can pick it up, start to finish, in the little tiny pockets of time that you have while you're waiting in the doctor's office, while you're tucking your child into bed. You could get out specific books and kill 2 birds with 1 stone, as they say, and get a lesson for yourself, an enjoyable read for your child. They are quick and portable, and they're easy to fit into a reading life. Because they are so short, they are often quite, what's the word I want? They're targeted. They are compact. They are lyrical. There is no extra wording here. They get right to it because there are only certain number of words that you can have in a picture book. And because they get right to it, the story is pretty powerful inside. The pictures just make the story come alive. It gives us a visual, it gives adults a visual break, an escape from having to do the work themselves and just get lost in those beautiful images. And as I mentioned, because we are reading children's literature, because we are seeing it on the page, and because these short, compact stories, it just goes right to our heart and probably our inner child's heart as well. So picture books just have these perfect little portable opportunities to have a big punch for adults. So I want to share 10-ish picture book titles with you that, yes, you can share with the young readers in your lives, but I feel like are perfect for you to think about what you might need to learn as an adult. How can children's picture books support adult transformation? These are in no particular order. I've just tried really hard to narrow it down to some of my favorites. I've tried to give you new titles, old titles, all across a range of reasons that you might head to these picture books. First up, I am giving you a brand spanking new book that is quite possibly my new favorite. This book is written by Michael Wang and is called Leif's Gift. Leif, Leif's Gift. And in this book, a young child has an obsession with plants. Now, in his family, passion is encouraged. Mom and dad have a bakery and a coffee shop, and Leif just really leans in to this passion. He learns, he reads, he experiments, he gathers plants, he grows them, he does all of the things until his room is so overwhelmed with plants that important things to him start to go missing in all of the underbush and the foliage. And so he has to figure out what to do about it. And I won't tell you what he figures out what to do, but I will tell you that it brings people together. So if you are an adult who is struggling to find time to do something you love, if you are an adult who is telling yourself that it's selfish to lean into a passion, to have an obsession of sorts, if you are an adult who is seeking connection and community and you're not quite sure how, this book, Leif's Gift, is for you. And I think it reminds adults that when we don't lean into what we love, when we don't just go after that passion, a whole lot of other people around us end up missing out too. So that's Leif's Gift by Michael Wang. Up next is a favorite, and I imagine a favorite of many of you as well, The Blur by Min Lee. Now, time passes quickly. We know that. Blink and years go by. This book beautifully captures just how fast that process is. I think it's the perfect book to spark reflection on what matters most to you, what you do not want to pass by you in a blur, and how you can savor your days so that there are fewer regrets later. So reading this book helps us to think what feels like a blur in our life right now, and what don't we want to feel like a blur? What matters to us? What should I be prioritizing? Right? How can I make sure that in 1 year I don't look back and realize that things pass too quickly? When I read this book, I was prompted to make a list of things that I wanted to prioritize in the coming season because I didn't want to waste it. As my kids are graduating high school and heading off to college, I can 100% say that a lot of it was a blur. And this book reminds us that we need to take time to cultivate the habits and the rituals and the priorities in our lives so that what is blurring is okay with us, right? And the things that we want to hang on to, we will, and we'll continue to check in with ourselves about those things too. So if you feel like time is passing too quickly, your life is passing too quickly, the seasons are passing too quickly, the blur could help you figure out, perhaps, or at least spark a reflection on what you can do next. Now, up next is an all-time favorite. I read it with almost every classroom of students that I have, every group of teachers that I have. It's The Big Orange Splot by Daniel Pinkwater, right? And who knew in this book that a big orange splot of paint dropped from the sky could transform this cookie cutter neighborhood into a collection of people pursuing their passions? If you are an adult who feels stuck, if you are an adult who feels like you are in a rut, if you are an adult who feels like you have buried your dreams down in order to do what everybody else said that you should do, this book is for you. It urges us to think, if we had unlimited time and unlimited resources, what would you spend your days doing? And why don't you do any of that? Have you ever just wanted to shake your life up a bit and just step out of the box, right? How and why and why not? What could you do? In the book, the main character decides to leave the big orange spot that has fallen on his home there. And instead of covering it up to look the same as everybody else, like he should, he decides overnight to just start painting his house all sorts of wild ways in order to represent the dreams he has inside of his heart. People initially are a little angry at him, but one by one, with a few sips of lemonade and iced tea and a conversation, the neighborhood starts uncovering their dreams deep down and start transforming their homes too. So this is a book that asks you to stop and think. What are your dreams? What were they? What are they now? What could they be? Where did they go? And get started representing them. Maybe it's just getting your notebook out and a colorful set of markers, or maybe it's going onto Pinterest and creating a brand new board for yourself. This book is going to spark some introspection on what those dreams are. Now, up next is a book that I adored and that was on the Kidlit Love podcast. It's called The Big Squeeze by Molly Harris. And in this book, the main character is a kitchen sponge. And this kitchen sponge takes her job very seriously and wants to do all the things, all the cleanup, all her way. Now, as she's doing this again and again and again, she's realizing that she's not as effective as she once was. There's too much junk stuck inside of her sponge, and she just can't do it. And so what happens? Well, with the help of some kitchen friends, she gets wrung out, washed up a little bit, and comes back sparkling new, able to do her job the way she wants. This book is a permission slip for self-care. If you're an adult who does not take much time for him or herself, this book will remind you that that cannot last forever. Something will go wrong. Your body will go wrong. A relationship will go wrong. Your mental health will go wrong. Your work will go wrong. Something will go wrong because it's just not natural to always stay in that particular state. This book is a tongue-in-cheek book for adults to say, how am I like the sponge? Where do I need my big squeeze? What could be my big squeeze? And how could I prevent myself from burning out so that I can keep being the person I want to be? So that's The Big Squeeze by Molly Harris. Up next is an older book, but one I wanted to include called A Froggy Fable by John Lechner. So this is about Frog, and Frog loves things just the way they are until a big change takes him out of his comfort zone. And it is hard and it is uncomfortable. And it took him some time to adjust. But eventually, Frog realized that change wasn't so bad after all. So this is a book to comfort someone if they are going through a big change, starting a new school, graduating, moving away, a new relationship, ending a relationship, starting a new job, any kind of change in your life, A Froggy's Fable is a good way to remind readers that change happens and it is not uncomfortable, but it is a temporary in between, and the other side could actually be better than where you currently are. So I imagine when you read this book, you might be thinking about your own changes in your own life, what that change is like, how you might shift your perspective on that change, and of course, what unexpected positive results could result from it. So, an old book with a new twist, Froggy Fable by John Lechner. Up next is a gorgeous book. This is a black and white covered book with just a pop of red in the young girl's jacket and a pop of yellow in the flowers. It's Sidewalk Flowers by John Arno Lawson. This is a wordless picture book. And I feel like wordless picture books just give us such opportunity to have emotion surrounding them. And these illustrations are so striking. Now, in this book, I think it does a couple of things. One is that it captures the wonder of childhood. This character is all about being in the present moment and enjoying absolutely everything that she sees on her walk. However, it also captures the distractedness of adulthood and how the father figure in the book is doing the total opposite of staying present. Even though it looks like he is there, his device is also there. And there's a very powerful moment when we realize our distraction could be getting in the way of a whole lot of things that we don't want to miss. So if you are having trouble with your cell phone usage, if you wish that you could disconnect from social media, if you wish that there was a bit more wonder and curiosity and presence in your life, Sidewalk Flowers could be the gut punch that you need to remind you what you're missing out on because of your busyness. It might spark you to think where you can find more wonder and awe and curiosity in your life. And it just might be the reminder you need to stay a bit more present. I recommend taking an awe walk after you read this book, AWE walk, where you just go through a half an hour or your whole day and just list all the little things that you miss and you take for granted. And then maybe take it a step further and think of all of the things that you miss because you're on that device, right? Open up your cell phone, go to your settings, check your usage, shock yourself, and then go to this book as a reminder of what you might change in order to feel better about how present you are on the day to day. Up next, I have a book called Little Tree by Lauren Long. So Little Tree is also an older book. It's beautifully illustrated. I adore it. It's got lots of white backgrounds with this fall looking tree. This is another book if change is hard for you. This is another book if growth in a particular direction is hard for you. But this is a book if letting go is hard for you. So this book shows us growth and change, it can be hard. But when you hang on to things that no longer serve you, you cannot grow into the new version of yourself that you were meant to be. So this book is perfect for adults who are reflecting on their own current place in the world, who are reflecting on where they want to grow and change, who are deciding if they should let go of something and if they need the space to figure out what might come next. So as you read this book, you might think about the season of life that you're in, the season of family, the season of work. What seasons are you in and how does it feel? And as you think about that season, Are there things that you're holding on to too tightly? Are there things that are not serving you that you could let go of? Are there things that you need so that you can learn and grow? This is one of those books that I think adults could read over and over and over again at different phases of their lives, because this is a lesson that is hard to learn and is one of the easier ones, I think, to forget as well. So I think this could be one for those of us that need that reminder that sometimes letting go or stepping to the side or saying no might actually be a good thing. Now, up next, I've got Patchwork by Matt de la Peña. This is a beautiful book. I know all of them are beautiful, but this book in particularly explores the endless possibilities inside of us. It's a book that can spark reflection on who we want to be and what we might become next, no matter how old we are, because our stories are still being written. And that means the possibilities ahead of us are still endless. So it's a book that makes you stop and think, what makes you you? Think about that for a minute. What makes you you? What are the goals that you've set for yourself? Have they shifted and changed? What do you still want? What new things might be possible? What dreams have you stuffed away? What stories do you still have to tell? I love this book, Patchwork, because it gives us the perfect opportunity to get tangible, right? So if you read this book and then you just go get your art supplies out, just get squares of paper or cut out squares of paper, squares of magazines, journal pages, whatever you have. Get all the colorful writing utensils that you can find in your home. Sit at your table, take a couple of deep breaths, and visualize the you that you want to see. As you come up with elements of that version of you, write each element down on one of those squares. So in front of you, you'd have a bunch of squares with a bunch of words. Add to them, draw, represent, add stickers, put glitter, sparkly things, whatever you would like. And then arrange those squares into a quilt-like shape on the page. And you have a different kind of vision board that reminds you that your life is made up as many things as you want it to be. And you get to decide what those squares are in your quilt. I just love the artistic creativity that could come next after reading this book. Now, my next picture book is called The Circles All Around Us by Brad Montague. And if you have done any kind of workshop or work with me, you know how much I adore this book. This is a sweet book about the circles we draw for ourselves and the power that comes with expanding them. So if you are someone who has a hard time getting out of your comfort zone, trying new foods, going to new places, doing new things, this book will remind you how life is about growing the circles around us, making them bigger and bigger bit by bit, so that we can make the world a better place for us and a better place for it. So it's just such a beautiful book that reminds us our comfort levels need to be tested in order to grow. It might invite you to think about the things, the places, the people, the concepts that are currently in your life and how you might broaden them, what you could do. You might start drawing your own circles to represent the life circles that you have as the character did, and just use it as a useful metaphor that when you have a decision to make about something and it's scary or you're not sure, you can ask yourself, is this going to help me choose the bigger life? That's Gretchen Rubin's question. Well, actually, her mantra, choose the bigger life. This book, The Circles All Around Us, give us a beautiful metaphor for how we might be able to do that. Okay, I only have two more books, at least, to share with you on today's podcast. The next one I want to share is called 10 Beautiful Things by Molly Beth Griffin. This book showcases a little girl's mission, or I guess we could say a little girl's challenge posed by her grandmother to find 10 beautiful things on the way to her new home. Now, I won't tell you why she is on her way to a new home with her grandmother, but I will say that it is perhaps not under the best circumstances. And so she struggles with this. 10 beautiful things when I'm not feeling so beautiful, but she does. And she ultimately ends up appreciating the journey, appreciating everything in her life. And this reminds her that there's always a way to find gratitude. So 10 Beautiful Things is a book for adults who are trying to cultivate a gratitude practice. It's for adults who are currently going through something hard and want a reminder that there are still beautiful things around them. It's such a gift to help switch your mindset to one of gratitude, and it might be a kickstart for a daily gratitude practice. Now, my last book, last but not least, again, remember, they're not in any particular order, is Jolofte by Bernard Mensa. This is another author I had the joy of interviewing on the Kidlit Love podcast. And I love this book because of its focus on family and food and traditions. So this is a book that just gives you all the feels. It reminds you of what's important. It helps you think about the legacy that you might be leaving behind in food, yes, but in other ways as well. It follows the relationship and the experience between a father and a son, and it just sparks us thinking of what our own connections are, our own traditions, our own foods, our things that make us us, that we want people to remember long into the future. This book sparks that kind of thinking. My goodness. Okay, that was 11 books. If you were counting, that was 11 picture books with a couple of other titles thrown in there for good measure in the opening clip to the episode. And I want you to think about this. As I was listing through these 11 books, was there one that jumped out at you? Whether it was the title of the book, if it was my description of the book, or if it was why I think certain adults needed the book. I don't want you to question it. I just want you to think, you know what? Yeah, actually, that one really jumped out at me. And maybe you don't know why, but I think that's your sign that that could be the book that you start with first. Now, last week on the podcast, I talked about the power of creating a pause pile. If you remember, or if you haven't listened yet, a pause pile is a collection of specific books that are meant to be read in small doses, that are meant to soothe and inspire and just spark really good feelings, often essay collections and short stories. However, I would say that throwing in a picture book or two into your pause pile would be a wonderful idea because they may be a bit longer than the other books I suggested for the pause pile, but I still think they are the perfect amount of time that can give you a break to help you decompress, to spark thinking, and help you close that page and walk into the rest of your day with a new mindset. So if you haven't created a pause pile yet, this is your second reminder to do so and perhaps to pull in one of these picture book titles. I'd love to know those books that are resonating with you. As always, you can find me in the show notes, or you can't find me, you can comment on the show notes. Go to willitlife.com, click on this episode, and leave the titles that are resonating with you there. Find me on social media at AfinitoLit, or click on the audio recording button in your favorite podcast platform. But don't stop there. Tell me the books that you loved, but tell me the picture books you think that I need, because I am always looking for new picture books. I'm always looking for new text to put into my own personal pause pile, and I would love to know what you think. Now, if you love this kind of episode, really thinking about how to transform your own personal development through books, even picture books, then I highly recommend you head to my Get Literate Substack community and you join us there. Every month, there is a new book calendar with a one-word theme. There is a book club, and the author is attending live with us this month, which I am really excited about. And there's always bonus weekly episodes on Sunday to keep all of this bookish goodness going. So if you'd like to learn more, you can head to alitlife.substack.com, or you can just click the link in the show notes. Thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you will pick up a picture book or two as a new way to help you grow into the person you would like to be. Happy reading, and I will see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Kid Lit Love podcast. You'll find links to all of the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. You'll also find Kid Lit Love on Substack. That's where you'll find posts for each episode, monthly Kid Lit roundups, and an invitation to join my summer book club and go deeper into the world of children's literature. And if you loved this podcast and want more, you might like to listen to my other podcast called Get Literate. It's a podcast that explores all things books and reading, notebooks and writing to build a life you love. One more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish community of Kid Lit Love. Thanks for listening.